This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time. Content presented in the following podcast is for information purposes only. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guest and may not represent the views and opinions of the Whole Care Network. Always consult with your physician for any medical advice, and always consult with your attorney for any legal advice. And thank you for listening to the Whole Care Network.
One of the things that have helped me throughout the years is understanding where everybody is and understanding the journey, the personal journey for each one of my siblings. When we understand other perspectives, it's easier for us to act accordingly and to ask for the adequate help.
Caring for aging parents or other loved ones while working, raising children, and trying to live your own life? Wondering how to find the time for your personal health and happiness? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Happy, Healthy Caregiver Podcast, the show where real family caregivers share how to be happy and healthy while caring for others. Now, here's your host, family caregiver and certified caregiving consultant, Elizabeth Miller.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the Happy, Healthy Caregiver Podcast, which is part of the Whole Care Network. If this is your first time listening, welcome. This is a show produced bi-weekly to help family caregivers integrate self-care and caregiving into their lives. Each episode has an accompanying show notes page, so if you'd like more details about the topics, products, and resources we speak about, or you want to see the other related photos, you'll find the show notes by going onto the website happyhealthycaregiver.com, and underneath the podcast menu, click the image or episode number for today's show. The link is also in your podcast platform episode's description. Are you a person who has FOMO, fear of missing out? Well, you are missing out if you aren't on the Happy Healthy Caregiver email list. Life gets busy and there's much happening in the caregiving space. I help fast track you to the events, articles, resources, and products that can help you on this caregiving journey. Every Tuesday, you'll get the weekly roundup, which includes tips under the pillars of happy, healthy, and caregiving, plus upcoming events, special offers, and a lot more. Don't wait another week. Subscribe at bit.ly/HHC eNews, and you'll immediately start receiving the Welcome series, which introduces what I have to offer and shares a few valuable downloads. In today's segment of what I'm reading, or in this case listening to, I finished A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This book put its hooks into me. Believable, not so much, but great story, yes. Pip is a high school senior with a capstone project where she's looking into a case that was closed in her small town. A few years before her, a high school young woman went missing. Her boyfriend was accused and later died by suicide, but it just never sat well for Pip. Pip knew the accused as a child. Her assignment is her excuse to start to talk to people about the past investigation, and her list of people of interest gets large. Pip is starting to receive threats of her own as people want her to stop digging up the past. I didn't realize when I started this that this book is part of a series. I guess I'm hooked into all of that too. I'll link to the book in the show notes. Again, it's The Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. My favorite thing this week is something that I've been using for several years. It's called Rose Hip Seed Oil from The Ordinary Company. My sister Susie turned me onto this product, and I used to use it when I would go visit her. It's not expensive. It's like $20, which is saying a lot when you walk into Ulta or Sephora, and it's organic and cold pressed. After I wash my face at night, I take a few drops of this rosehip seed oil and rub it all over my neck and my face. It's not greasy, it has a gentle smell, and it's very hydrating for my skin. So I thought I would share that, and I'll share the link in the show notes for it. Before we get into today's Caregiver Spotlight episode, I want to first shine the light on our episode sponsor, Rare Patient Voice. Do you want to earn cash in exchange for your opinion? Researchers recognize that the true disease experts are those living with a condition and their family caregivers. Rare Patient Voice helps connect researchers with patients and family caregivers for over 700 diseases and conditions. For patients and caregivers, RPV provides the opportunity to voice their opinions to improve medical products and services while earning cash rewards. Rare Patient Voice, helping patients and caregivers share their voices. If you're interested, join the RPV panel at rarepatientvoice.com/happy healthy caregiver. Let's meet today's caregiver in the spotlight, Isabel Melgarejo. At 20 years old, Isabel Melgarejo became a family caregiver when her dad passed and her mom fell into depression. For years, Isabel has helped her mom in what she needed. As a project manager in her profession, Isabel learned the power of proactive planning. She now applies this practice to all life's events. In this episode, Isabel and I chat about why she became curious about her feelings and what action she took to address her needs. We also talked about the awkward long-term care conversations with her mom and how she helped organize her immediate family to align the responsibilities to match mom's needs. And learn what daily self-care habit Isabel practices to increase her frequency of good days. Enjoy the show. Hi, Isabel. Welcome to the Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm super excited to be here with you today.
Me too. I want to dive into what you're all about and where this caregiving journey has led you and some of the self-care things that you have started to practice and put in place. But first, we pick some words of inspiration from the Happy Healthy Caregiver jar. So this is something that I've collected over the years of things that have spoken to me. I've compiled them together in a PDF for caregivers to create their own jar, their own container, either for themselves or for someone that they care about. So yours says, repeat, I am stronger than this challenge. This challenge is making me even stronger.
I love it.
I think about the challenge. I think about when I read it, I was like, this challenge of caregiving can be very challenging. It's not all bad, right? But I felt like it has made me who I am today and made me a stronger, more resilient person. What kind of adjectives would you say that caregiving is doing for you or has done for you?
I think it has given me a lot of resilience. And I think I have also learned how to be more patient.
That's so true. Yeah, I realized I didn't have a whole lot of control when I was caregiving, and I wanted the control, and I would hold on to the reins really tight and try to kind of orchestrate everything. But life is life and people are people, and there's a lot of moving parts and pieces, and I had to really learn how to let go.
Yeah. You need to learn how to let go things and just stop worrying about everything.
Yeah, it's so true. Well, but tell us, Isabel, tell us a little bit how you found yourself in the caregiving role. It probably was not something that you were intentionally looking to do.
I was not, because I was actually 20 and I was still living with my parents when my dad passed away. And
I'm so sorry.
Mom, thank you so much. My mom felt in this really bad depression. And that's when I started caring for her, because she was functional, but she was not fully functional. So she would go to work, but then she wouldn't do anything else. And she had her black uniform that she would wear Monday through Sunday. So that's how I started. I was 20, and that's where my journey began. Making sure that she would come out of that depression and that her mental health was back to normal, or not back to normal, because losing someone always leaves a hole in your heart. But at least I wanted her to be able to enjoy life again, and to be able to go out with friends and enjoy activities that she had always enjoyed before. And that's how I started my journey.
Yeah. Well, you were so young as a 20-year-old. I mean, it's not the normal things that a 20-year-old has going on. And I'm grateful that you brought up kind of these invisible disabilities as far as like mental health. Like, to the outside world, maybe your mom looked, like she maybe had it put together a little bit, but on the inside, there's a lot of things that are happening inside of our bodies, such as mental health and depression, that you recognize some of the signs that because you are the expert in your mom, you saw that it wasn't normal behavior for her. But while that's happening, you are also processing the grief and the loss of your dad, who's a very important person in your life. So that had to have been difficult.
It was difficult, but I also think it gave me purpose. And one of the things that happened during that time, well, many things happened, but I noticed that people like are not willing to talk about the process of like going through grief. And I started internalizing everything. And I think I really connected with my mom in that regard, because she has always internalized absolutely everything. Like whatever sicknesses, whatever had happened to us, good or bad, and especially the bad moments, and knowing that she had a lot of like really hard moments in her life, and she had cancer. She didn't tell she had cancer to anybody. Like nowadays, 30 years later, she talks with friends and, oh, I had cancer. Like they have no clue. So internalizing everything for myself gave me a very good perspective of how she was feeling. And I think that's something that a lot of caregivers forget, because they started taking care of their parents, and then their parents take over their lives, and we forget about ourselves, and we forget about how our parents are feeling. And it's just everything is uncomfortable. And I really want to change that, even if it's with this podcast and just telling my story. I just want to change someone's life in regard that they should know that their lives are important as well, and they should also understand what their parents are going through. So I think that really changed my perspective with my mom, understanding what she was going through. And then, okay, we're here. Both of us are here for each other. And then let's figure out life one day at a time.
I mean, you've gotten there kind of maybe a little more quickly than some people have, I think, because I don't know how old you are now. Not, I know you're not 20 anymore, but you've been going through this for a while, and you know that you got a taste of what it was like. What mom was, you were maybe internalizing your grief and internalizing your situation. Do you still internalize things, or have you found a different way to feel the feels and kind of cope with the emotional and mental health of things?
So a couple of years after my dad passed away, I moved to Canada, and then I moved back with her for a couple of years. And when I moved back, I made myself conscious that I needed to work on myself. So I found a therapist, and she's been my therapist for I don't know how many years, but I found her, and I've been working with her for all these years. And every time that I notice that something is really bugging me, and I think this is something we need to work, because it's paying attention to ourselves every single day and noticing if something is off. So I started working with her, and every time that I feel that something is off, I will call her and go through a couple of sessions and then go back to like the way I like feeling every single morning. And I also have hired coaches throughout my life to help me focus on achieving the lifestyle that I want, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, we listen, we don't all have the answers, right? Like we're not born with like this full set of things that we're tools that we're going to need for the rest of our life. And there are people out there that have been where we want to be or are currently working toward that. And we can take advice and counsel from those folks. So I love, the idea of a coach in all areas of your life is very powerful because it can help fast track you to where you want to be. And it will also validate, what you're feeling, and give you hope, I think, for what you want to be true in the future.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like who you want, and it's mostly how you want to feel. And talking about mental health, we go through like life, and I think I find this really funny because when we're young, we're always asked like, what do you want to do when you're older? And we enclose ourselves in being a doctor, in being a lawyer, but we never focus on how we want to feel. We want to feel resourceful. We want to feel that we're helping the world. We want to feel nobody asks us that. And I think that is another like breakthrough for me that has helped me cope with being a caregiver and even at work, because I have changed my professional life several times. And it's all about how you want to feel. And that brings a lot of, like, at least for me, that brings a lot of joy, knowing that I'm feeling resourceful, that I'm feeling that I can help someone, and that I can bring joy to someone else, that I can share my life and my happiness with other people, and that I don't depend on anybody else to make me happy.
I mean, I really appreciate your vulnerability about therapy and about really fine tuning and focusing in on your feelings. If someone is listening to this, Isabel, who is not very in tune with how they're feeling but wants to be, how did you get there? What were the steps that you took?
I think the first step is the hardest one, and it's recognizing that you're not feeling the best. And I think this is the hardest one because nobody appreciates weak people. And there's a lot of taboo around mental health, and there's a lot of taboo around asking for help in regards to mental health. So making that first acknowledgement of, yes, I need help, that's the first step of the process. And then another big step is finding someone that you trust and that you want to work with, because not everybody is your cup of tea. And it's also recognizing within the process that some people are really good for other people, but they're not really bringing you the help that you need in the moment that you need it. And I think that's probably the two big steps, like first recognizing that you need help and then looking for the right help for you.
Yeah, I mean, as you're talking, I'm like thinking back, to when I was deep in the throes of caregiving. And my phrase that I say often is like, I didn't recognize who I was looking at myself in the mirror. And that's kind of a loaded phrase, but that's really what it says is like, I was, I didn't smile. I didn't I didn't look bright-eyed and happier. I was, I had a lot of physical things. I had acne, I was gaining weight. I mean, but all of that was because I was internalizing and manifesting some of my feelings that were going on with caregiving. And that's really where I had to, there's got to be a moment kind of that happens where you're like, I don't want to do this, live like this anymore. So what are the tools and what are the steps I can take? And seeking that coaching, I think, can be really powerful. Is looking for a care coach, is that a caregiving coach? Is that something that you've been able to kind of combine in with your therapy, or have you found that through peers, or have you found that at all? Like, as far as somebody who really understands the caregiving journey, what's been helpful for you there?
I think there are two types of people in terms of caregiving: the people that have done it, that have experienced it, and the people who haven't. And once you find the people who have, and I'm talking this because excuse me, when I first started being a caregiver, I was 20, and all my friends were more interested in partying and clubbing than taking care of their parents. And that was a huge disconnect for me, because the people I was surrounded was living a very different life, and they wouldn't understand what it was like to care for somebody else.
Yeah, it's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, and they were not even parents. Like, there was absolutely no connection. And so, yeah, like that part of it, like finding people in the right moment, like you just need to find and connect with other people, and just try to connect with people that are going through the same kind of process that you are. And I think nowadays with Facebook, like, and so many other communities, it's easier to find that support. Because you can actually go and find it, and there are lots of groups and lots of resources out there for you to look and search and connect with people that are going through the same process that you are. And obviously you always find people that are going through worse and people that have it easier, but it's also like, it's nice having that combination of like different mindsets and different problems, because you start learning from these kind of communities.
Yeah, it's so true. There is much more in the social world and the podcasting world and so forth than there was, back in the beginning when I was caregiving, or at least I know what to search for now, maybe is more like it. But I do think that there's different types of groups too, and to try to instead of kind of splattering everything everywhere, maybe hone in on find your people that you can really relate to and invest in, maybe one or two groups, instead of kind of trying to be everywhere, to nurture some relationships and some connections within that community. Because I think that can be hard in some of the social groups, particularly some of the ones that are really, really, big. There's a ton of people, but you've got to kind of, you get what you put into it, right? Like, you can just be a taker, but if you're a giver and a taker in those groups, I think it can be really, really powerful. Thank you for sharing that. There's a lot of accessibility to tapping into that kind of support from your own home. Like, you don't have to necessarily go out and seek it physically in different ways. But, Isabel, you have siblings that help you in some way or shape or form, hopefully taking care of your mom. But I know that it was a bit of a struggle, I think, initially. You had to really kind of pull the group together and get them to maybe help and step up and really realize what was going on. Talk a little bit about the family dynamics and what you did, what it looked like when it wasn't maybe working very well, and then what you did to try to get it on a good track.
Thanks for asking. So it is four of us, and I was born after 11 years. So there's quite a difference in age from my siblings and myself. And one of the things that I remember, the first Christmas, everybody was very into, like, yes, we're going to spend Christmas together with mom. And everybody forgot that there's another holiday very close to Christmas called New Year's Eve, that it's also celebrated.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom and I spent that first New Year's Eve by ourselves because everybody else was doing something else. And one of the things that have helped me throughout the years is understanding where everybody is and understanding the journey, the personal journey for each one of my siblings. So and I go back to putting ourselves in somebody else's shoes and understanding what they're going through. When we understand other perspectives, it's easier for us to act accordingly and to ask for the adequate help. One of my siblings, he's always been like in denial of mom getting older. And for example, with him, one of the things that happened, I had been telling my mom whenever she traveled to get the wheelchair, so she wouldn't have to lift her luggage, just for that reason. And he was like, no, you're a strong woman, you can walk. And I was like, no, she's not as strong. And if someone else can help her with her luggage, that's going to be great. So that kind of struggles and those kind of conversations happen. And one of the things that I've always done is just to understand where they're coming from and negotiate with them. And another thing that has also helped me a lot is building very strong boundaries, which I know is very hard for many of us. But building boundaries is the foundation of success. Because
Give us
then
some
you
examples of a boundary that you have had to put into place and hold true.
So when I moved to Texas, I was in charge of mom, and when I moved here, I moved with my husband, and like I was not going to be able to take care of her as much, and I was not there. So one of the things, first I talked with her and talked about her expectations in life, and that's like another big takeaway for me, understanding what mom wants and not just making decisions for her. And I know that's not the case for everybody, that there's a point in life in which we need to take decisions for our parents. But well, like those decisions, they should be able to make those decisions before it gets to a point in which they can't make those decisions. So I first talked with my mom, understood what were her needs and her expectations. And then I created like a special chat with, like a group chat with my siblings, specifically for taking care of mom. And I established like my rules, and like you all have to jump in and make sure that she is well. Someone needs to go and visit her and make sure that she hasn't left the keys on the door again. And someone has to make sure that, like, someone needs to call her every day and see that she's doing all right. She's still, like, she is still independent, but she's getting into that point in which she forgets things. And like a couple of months ago, she fell and broke her nose and had black eyes and all the things. So what are you doing, and who's going to be responsible of making sure that she's all right? And I think it has been easy for me, just like, hey, you're going to do this and that. And I understand that's not the case for everybody, but I do try to understand where each of my siblings are and what they're able to do and what they're not able to do. and also understand.
Yeah, it's realistic. And it from where you're sitting and what they've got going on the plate, it's realistic for them. Or do they live, where does mom live? You are in Texas. Mom
She
lives
lives
in,
she lives in Mexico City.
okay.
My sister lives in Merida, and my two brothers live. One of my brothers lives very close to her. The other one not so much, but realistically, I can't go to her home every day to check that she closed the door.
No. Right. There's geography in place. So of all the siblings, you're the furthest from your mom at now where you are now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it does take somebody, and we just talked about this in a prior episode about like somebody's got to kind of take on this project management role, this facilitation role that is not necessarily us as the primary caregiver to do all the work, but we're helping to get the team in place and figure out the roles and responsibilities. When you were sharing that someone needs to, check on mom and call mom and do these things, were you getting to the point of specific names so that you know that someone had accountability?
Yeah. Like in project management, you need to like there's someone responsible for a certain activity. So that's the way we do things, and if that's your responsibility, then it's easier to divide responsibilities among all of us, and each one of us know what we're supposed to be doing and when we're supposed to be doing it. So it's easier for everybody, and if someone else needs to jump in because life happens, then the communication is easier.
So you mentioned you have like a group chat. Are there other tools that you have used within your family and your care team that help you coordinate the care and the companionship and other responsibilities that need to be shared among the group? And you've used any apps or spreadsheets or written documents?
My brother runs a spreadsheet with things like costs and whatnot, but mostly is like, I don't know if I would call it like it's just having order in life and knowing what you need, because probably you're doing that for yourself.
Yeah, like to-do lists. And is there in the chat kind of, I imagine, kind of keeps you guys like day to day understanding, what's coming and who has it. There are apps too. I mentioned that because there are apps that also can help caregivers with their care teams, help organize and, have the calendar and request help. And, I can link to some of those in the show notes of some apps and some of them are partners of Happy Healthy Caregiver, like Circle of and Connected Caregiver. And, but there are also just like, old fashioned things that we've been doing for a long time, like just communication, constant communication. But I think you've had these conversations with your siblings and they seem like they're receptive to you kind of taking the reins. You're the youngest though, right?
Yes.
Yes. So, but you're the one that's, kind of seen firsthand what was going on. While I'm imagining other people are established in their careers, maybe they have families of their own and things going on. Do you have a regular, boundary or expectation of like how often you will visit and help with mom hands-on?
I usually fly her here because it's just easier for me I don't need to leave my life if she's flying.
Yeah. And she's still capable of doing all of that. And to your point, there's help to get people from point A to point B, so she doesn't have to hurt herself. And
yeah, like, right. And I'm really fortunate that she's still like being able to walk and she's independent. So for me, it's easier just like come over for a couple of months and I'll take care of you and I'll make sure that everything is taken care of for you. And another thing that like last time that she came over from November to January, I think.
Oh,
And
quite a visit, not like a week. It's like you've got
no,
it. Yeah.
she
Months.
comes she comes for a couple of months. And during that visit, what I did was talk with her about what she's expecting in the next 5 to 10 years, and what, like, things that could happen, not necessarily that I am expecting them to happen, but knowing what to expect. We talked about finances. We talked about having, like, for her having a POA, about having, like, review her will, review, like, all her legal documents, talk with the doctors about what to expect when she grows older. and and we talked about that, and we designed a plan of what to do even when things happen. And these decisions, I had the difficult and awkward conversation with her, and then I just communicated with my siblings. So she doesn't want to be intubated for a long period of time. So that is, like, she took that decision, and I just communicated it with to my siblings, and she did as well. Like, I don't want to be living under these circumstances. And that helps a lot because the decisions have already been made. And I think that's a huge mistake for many caregivers, that they just wait for things to happen and then they make the decisions. And that rests a lot of power, because you're limited into resources that you can find in that moment. You don't have time to research, and probably it's going to be more expensive. And if there's fight between siblings, then you have that as well to consider. And instead, if you start talking with, like, what decisions should be made before, what if this happened, what would you like to us to do for you? And we know very clearly what to do. Like, and I think that's been, like, a really big blessing for us, understanding what to do even when things happen.
Yeah. Some people, I think, are afraid to have them because it's almost like they're speaking it into the universe of this is going to happen tomorrow necessarily. But I'm with you 100% on being proactive and having those, I call them courageous conversations, those awkward and difficult conversations. If somebody's listening and they're like, oh, I have not had any of these conversations with my care partner person, how do you start?
That's a tough question.
I mean, you could use this podcast, right? Like, you could use it and say, I was listening to this podcast and I just realized, like, what it could look like if we don't have these conversations. And I don't understand. I've had to do this with my brother recently. So I have a brother that's 6 years older than me. He's not married. He has no kids. So I'm live the closest to him. And I am like, I have no idea where any of his stuff is, what any of his passwords are, what he wants to be true in his future life. And so I have had these conversations with him, like, over like a holiday dinner. I was like, this is really weighing on me. I've seen this go really badly for people. And I'm worried about, I want to do what you want to have done for you, when you are at your most vulnerable time of your life. And what I did is I gave him the number for an elder law care attorney. And I said, just call them. You don't have to have all the answers and figure it all out right now, but just call them and they're going to help you, like, walk you through these documents and get these decisions on paper. And now he has, a trust for his house, that I'm his trustee. And I have I know that I have access to the things that I'll need access to help and the way that he wants stuff to lay out. And there's peace of mind in that for me. Now, I still have other sibling I got to work on to get that to happen. And I've had to do it for me and my husband too. Like we just recently have gone through this too with an elder law care. I'm only 51. Like people think, oh, elder law care attorney, but I just find that they are well equipped to kind of do it all, all the pieces. You pay money for that. A flat rate was I like that this one that we chose is a flat rate, and we can ask as many questions as we want forever. It's not like a lawyer fee every time we want to change something or do something. But there's a lot of peace of mind. And whether you go through the attorney part or there's a like the 5 wishes document, and we've had, one of the executives of 5 wishes, who's a caregiver on the show before. I'll link to his show. And I'll link to the document, the 5 wishes document. But that that serves as an advance directive and can help you kind of have some of these conversations. But it sounds like you are, aren't afraid to ask the questions, but some people are a little more hesitant and scared or fearful or feel like it's going to make it come true if they ask.
Yeah, a lot of people think that. A lot of people don't like talking about death.
Yeah.
A lot of people I don't know, it's a huge taboo. And I've found I don't think elder people care. They actually are waiting for people to ask them the right questions. So
because they're thinking about it. They've got it. Yeah. It's on their mind. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like they know that we all know that our lives are going to end at some point. We just like pretending that they're not. So but usually elder people are ready to talk about it, and they're just waiting for someone to bring the conversation. And I don't know if like the 5
wishes.
The 5-step rule from Mel Robbins, like counting 5 to 1. Like I think that's a great point of start. Like just get the courage and go for it.
I'm not familiar with that, but I'll find it and link to it. The 5-step. I know Mel Robbins, so she tells it like it is.
Yeah, exactly. And she's like, count from 5 to 1 and then just go.
That's perfect.
Yeah, I think she had this rule for something else in her life, but it applies perfectly.
I want to switch gears and talk about your self-care too, Isabel. Like, you've gotten comfortable with putting yourself first all the time, and maybe you weren't always necessarily there, but what did it look like in your caregiving days with your mom, even early on, after your dad passed away, where you were trying to kind of come back and feel your feels and all of that? Like, what did putting yourself first, what did that look like in those caregiving days? And what does that look like for you now?
So when I was a fencer for many years, and during that time, one of my coaches taught me to put myself first. And it took me, when he told me that, I felt it was very jealous. And with time, I've come to understand that it's not jealous putting yourself first. Actually, it's the best you can do for the world. And if you've ever taken an airplane, right at the beginning before the flight takes off, they go through all the safety guidelines, and if there is a lot of loss of pressure in the cabin, first you put the mask on yourself and then you tend to others, because if you're not safe, then you can't help anybody else. And
you're passed out, then you're at your risk for, but it is counterintuitive, right? Which is why they have to tell us, because our natural instinct is to help other people who are vulnerable.
And this is something that like police academy and the firefighters and like all the first responders know. First, you put your safety first. So this has been like my motto, and learning it from a young age, I think it helped me a lot. Putting myself first. I won't be able to help anybody in any regards if I'm not in my optimal stage. If I'm feeling down, if I'm sick, if I'm tired, if I'm And how many caregivers have come through this podcast and they're burnt out and they're tired, and because they're tired, they can't take care of anybody. So
Yeah.
prioritizing your needs, and I'm not saying prioritizing your wants, but prioritizing your needs should come first. And then you're
and going back to the beginning, like looking inward to figure out what your needs are. You know, am I tired? You know, am I lonely? Am I, you know, struggling with my energy level? Am I, you know, asking those questions of ourselves? I think sometimes we can get guilty of just do and checking things off. That it does take a moment to kind of look inward and see, you know, what's going on in there. So I think I just feel like you have gotten there. Like it's been remarkable how, you know, you've got adapted to this mindset, which is going to help you help other people get to that mindset as well. And, you know, maybe in a similar way, like I know I've learned a lot of what I've learned because I've watched my parents live a certain lifestyle and a mother-in-law live a certain lifestyle, and like literally made a decision, like, this is not what I want to be true for me. So how do I back away from that and figure out, not that everything that they did was bad in their life, that's what I'm not saying, but they did not prioritize their health and happiness. And that really cost us as a family and robbed us of years with them. So it's, it has a ripple effect. So I really just appreciate that you're practicing what you preach and putting yourself first. Like what did you do today, for example, to prioritize your health and happiness?
I went for a walk in the morning. So like things that I like, usually the mornings have to be like the most important thing in your day, because if you start your day correctly, then yeah, maybe things will happen, but they won't have as big as an effect as if you didn't prioritize yourself in the morning. So I usually, every morning, I go for a walk. I meditate while I'm walking. When I put, well, before that, when I put my feet on the ground, I claim that it's going to be a great day. So for example, today I said, today is going to be a great day. I'm going to have this amazing interview. I'm going to be working on a couple of projects from work. And I just claim that it's going to be a great day. I can't say that every day is a great day because things happen, but at least I start my day thinking that it's going to be great. And I prioritize having a healthy breakfast. I can skip the rest of the meals throughout the day, but breakfast is important. So I prioritize having breakfast every morning and having at least 2 minutes to just enjoy the moment, and then I'm good.
Yeah. What I heard you say is like, it wasn't like I need a full day to myself, or I need, you know, this. You have found habits that energize you, and you have found that the morning works best for you, stacking some of these healthy and happy habits to put you on the right course for your day. I too am a morning person. I know that not everybody is a morning person. Maybe if you're an evening person, your day starts when you kind of go to bed, and if you sleep really well, you can kind of back it up that way. But I find what you're saying to be true for me is that paying my health first really reaps dividends for everybody in my day. But everybody's different in that respect. But I imagine while not every day goes good for you, I have a hunch that because you practice these things, you have more days that go well than if you didn't do these things. But we'll never know, right? There's no controlled group of that. But I have a hunch.
Actually, like I started doing that, like waking up and claiming that it's going to be a great day not long ago. I started doing that probably 2 years ago. And since I started doing it, I've had terrible days throughout this couple of years. And even with those terrible days, I was able to find something that I enjoyed.
Yes. I would call that a little bit of a little bit of a gratitude practice in some ways, because, or you just, yeah, you are anticipating, what you want to be true. It's a law of attraction in some ways, like going back to that old book, The Secret, that, you act as what you want to be true. I'm envisioning checks in the mail right now for my business, or things like that. Maybe I'll have a check in the mail today just by law of attracting it. Or, I want to have an amazing conversation, and having that mindset that this is going to be this conversation is going to hopefully land on someone right when they need to hear it. And it's going to prompt them to do the 5-step rule and just take action in something that they're really struggling with. And that hopefully that's going to lead them to more peace of mind and health and happiness in their life. So we hope that that's, the true for this. You have an Instagram post, and I'm going to link to your social stuff in this, but you said when life gets heavy, that means you need to plan some fun time.
Yeah. And I can share with your audience, I have like a guide on how to have difficult conversations. So,
ooh, yeah, send that to me.
I'll send an email to you so you can add it into the comments. Yes. If anybody's interested, like, they're welcome to have that free resource on how to start a difficult conversation. And I just remember that I have that.
That's okay. There's a lot going on. So, and life does get heavy, and you've learned a lot through the different experiences that you've had. Let's do a little fun thing ourselves with the lightning round of the Just For You Daily Self-Care Journal. So it's a journal I wrote. That journaling and writing had been very healthy for me while caregiving. And so I wanted other people to have a taste of that. But it's a prompted journal. So whether you write a word or a sentence or a whole paragraph, it's completely up to you. But I'd love to get some of your thoughts on this, Isabel. Let's see. Okay, this is very timely. Today you are grateful for what?
I am grateful for you.
Uh-huh.
Like I've heard your podcast many times, and you're such a charm. It's been very different chatting with you than just listening to you.
Thank you. I'm glad that you have discovered that we connected that way. So I'll pay you for that later. I'm just kidding. Thank you for that sweet compliment. I would love to be a charm. I want to be charming. Okay, we're heading into summer. What's your favorite thing about summer, or one of your favorite things? Yeah.
Growing up, it was the rain, but usually Texas has no rain over summer. So, I think it's a time of like a lot of going on and a time of rest as well. So it's like getting into the middle of the year and taking some time to breathe so you can finish the year. That's what I like about summer.
Yeah, it's like your midway point of like, how did it go? Turn backwards. How's it going? Take a breath. I like that. I feel like the year is flying by, but I also feel like my mom, when I said I used to make fun of her about saying how fast time goes, but that's how I literally feel right now. What self-care wisdom would you share with a friend who is on a road to burnout?
Take 5 minutes every day for yourself. For whatever. Start by thinking what you need in that precise moment, and then give yourself that thing.
Mm.
Maybe it is a cup of tea. Maybe it is a nap. Well, that wouldn't be 5 minutes, but maybe it is. And maybe you need that nap at that moment. Mm-hmm. Maybe you need to connect with that friend you haven't talked with for 30 years. Call her.
Yeah. So I feel, and whatever the feeling is, and then what's an action you can take to address that feeling. I like that. Speaking of feelings, Isabel, last question. Do you feel like you are enough? Why or why not?
I think I am enough. And I think I am enough because everybody else in my life compliments me. And I'm happy to say this because for many years I never felt that way. And I know that during the caregiving journey, you don't feel that way. So if you're going through that situation, and just for everybody listening to us today or whenever, know that you're enough because you're complete. You're an individual. So
yeah, we're human. I think we feel sometimes like we're not enough because we didn't get the whole to-do list done. I don't know. The to-do list is like, it can really get to you, right? I like to make it manageable. So one of the tips to make it manageable is that I've gotten, this is from Shalene Johnson. She's one of the podcasters I like to listen to, but like putting 3 things on a Post-it note. Like if you get to these 3 things, throw the post, that's it. Like it's something that's realistic and doable in a day. I am totally guilty of putting way too much on my to-do list, but I have learned how to not define myself as enough because of what I produce and what I get done in my day. But I had to really work on that. And I've had to kind of say, well, it's a to-do list, not a to-do list. Like, ta-da, we got these things done. And that's, but I think because we have these overwhelming responsibilities that are never all going to get addressed, and this nest of hungry birds that's all demanding our attention from one person, we're one human, that if to me, like where I finally got in my caregiving journey is like, I could look myself in the mirror at night, and the person who did not like what she saw eventually became the person that respected, you respect what you see and say, gosh darn it, girlfriend, you kicked butt today. And you really gave it your all, and you're taking care of yourself at the same time, like, high five. And I think if we can kind of get to that transition, then I hope that we feel like we're enough.
yeah, I agree with you completely.
Yeah, there's a lot of power in the mirror. Maybe we need to like talk to the mirror more. Well, I've enjoyed this time with you, Isabel, today. Is there anything else that you were hoping we would chat about? Or, and how can people learn more about you and stay connected?
You can reach out at my social media on Instagram, Tumceur, TUMCOEUR. And I'll be there. I'm very active on Instagram, so I hope you can join me there.
Awesome. Okay, we'll link to that in the show notes page, and people can learn and connect with you, message you there. Any parting words of wisdom? Anything else, Isabel?
Yeah, of course. Like if your listeners want to join my my mailing list, that's also available. I can send you the link to my website as well.
Yes. Send me the link to the website. I'll put that in the show notes.
And I'll be happy to share tips and advice and activities all over for everybody to join and enjoy their lives.
I love it. More joy. We need more of that. Thank you so much, Isabel, for having this conversation with me today and being vulnerable, sharing your caregiving story and your tips of what's worked for you and what you've learned. I'm thankful for you.
I'm so grateful to being here. You've been such a joy.
Aw, thank you. I'll take it. I'm a charmful joy. I love it. Thank you so much, Isabel.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us today on the Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast on the Whole Care Network. As always, show notes that accompany today's episode can be found on my website, happyhealthycaregiver.com. Just look under the podcast menu for today's episode image, and that will take you to the page with the links and information we spoke about today. You'll also find other resources on the website, along with links to purchase the Just For You Daily Self-Care Journal. When you purchase from my website, you'll get a signed copy and for a limited time, free shipping. If you've enjoyed what you heard today, consider subscribing to the show on your podcast platform. It really helps other family caregivers find the podcast, and you'll automatically receive our bi-weekly shows in your podcast listening queue. Maybe while you're subscribing, consider leaving a 5-star rating and review, or just simply talk it up on your social channels. Let's stay connected. I'm on Instagram and Facebook as Happy Healthy Caregiver. And until we meet again, please take care of you.
This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time.